Star Wars Young Jedi Knights Crisis at Crystal Reef. Chapter 11. The cold, winding tunnels of the spice mines were almost completely devoid of light. Because glitterstim, the most common form of spice found in Kessel, was mined in total darkness. Glow panels were rarely used down here, and only in the areas where no mining was performed. Jaina shivered uncontrollably as she, Lobaka, and EMTD made their way cautiously through the shafts, careful to avoid any contact with Zethros' henchmen. Loi's thick ginger fur provided ample protection against the cold, but Jaina's comfortable brown flight suit warmed her only a little. Loi was also better equipped to see in the darkness, but since no light whatsoever was allowed to filter down into the tunnels, it was difficult for either of them to discern what lay ahead. At Loi's suggestion, EMTD brightened his optical sensors just enough to allow the two Jedi to see a meter in front of them. They did not want to attract attention of anyone who might turn them over to Zethros. With Loi's permission, Jaina walked a step behind, her numb fingers threaded into the fur on his back for warmth. The processed air in the tunnels chilled her throat and lungs with each breath. When she exhaled, a white mist streamed from her nostrils, further obscuring her dim vision. A part of Jaina wished that Zeke, Jason, and Tenelka were here to help them fight against the hostile takeover on Kessel. On the other hand, Jaina and Loi were Jedi Knights themselves. They were resourceful, and she had no doubt that the two of them could find a way to seriously disrupt the plan Zethros had made. "Do you suppose we're anywhere close to that computer terminal we need?" Jaina asked through chattering teeth. "Yes, Mistress Jaina," EMT replied in a modulated whisper. "I dare say we are now less than 0.3 kilometers from the emergency administrative terminals." Hope warmed Jaina, but only slightly. Loi gave a questioning bark. "Oh yes, quite certain," EMT replied, swiveling on his micro-repulsor jets to look back at Loi. "You see, I took the liberty of downloading not only the diagrams of the docking facilities on Kessel, but also a topographical map of all the major mining areas, along with a listing of landmarks and technical stations before we left Master Nim's office." "You what?" Jaina said. Loi gave a surprised bark. "Oh, Beth, I assure you I had his complete authorization to." "We believe you, EMTD," Jaina said, laughing out loud with relief, "but why didn't you tell us that before? We could have used a more detailed map." "Well, you didn't inquire," EMTD said, continuing to lead the way with his dim illumination. The subject simply never rose, so I had no idea that information would be so useful. I certainly didn't anticipate an invasion force overthrowing the legal administrators and staging a complete takeover of the space mines. Spice mines? Jaina shivered. "Neither did I. I certainly didn't dress for it." Loi began walking faster, knowing that they were getting close to their goal, seemed to give him renewed energy. Jaina forced herself into a trot to keep up with the lankier Wookiee. Through the force, her contact with her friend, Jaina could sense that a plan was beginning to form in Loi's mind, and her spirits lifted. "Hey, EMTD?" "Yes, Mr. Jaina?" "I'm glad you're on our team." Loi groaned as the terminals rejected his request for access to the secure systems on the administrator level for the third time. Jaina bit her lower lip and tried to apply some creative thinking. "I sure wish we knew what Zethros was up to right now," she said. Loi shrugged and pounded his hairy fist against the terminal in frustration. "Master Labaka, might I be so bold?" EMT piped up. "Perhaps my circus can be applied to overcome some of Kessel's security routines." "It wouldn't hurt," Jaina said. Loi popped open EMT's casing, piled out a few leads, and connected them to the terminal input port. EMT proceeded to and aha for a few minutes, and then said, "Oh yes, most gratifying, even better than I might have hoped." A moment later, an image on the terminal screen split itself into 5 parts, with 4 small windows across the top and one large image taking up the lower 2/3 of the screen. To both Jaina and Loi's surprise, each of the smaller images began changing rapidly, showing a different scene: the main cargo bay, various mining tunnels, the packaging chamber, and conveyor belts assorted refresher units. Suddenly, Loi howled in triumph. Go back, Jaina said. In the front of them appeared the image of the silver-visored Zethros seated in Nim's own administrative offices. He was speaking to his henchmen, who were gathered around. Can we get sound? Jaina asked, her teeth chattering. Within seconds, the invasion leader's gruff voice came over the terminal speaker. Now that we've consolidated our position on Kessel, we need to reconfigure the main transmitter. When that's finished, we'll send our signal, and then nothing will be able to stop us. That signal will launch 1,000 different takeovers and key installations and businesses across the galaxy. Everything perfectly timed. My army may not be large, but I have the right people in the right places. Once they take control, my network will be too powerful even to the New Republic to fight against. Only I could have brought this about, he smiled around to his confederates. And you, my trusted colleagues, will be there to see it all happen. I've planned everything down to the last second. Nothing begins until we send our signal, because any resistance to our plan at any of the key points in my network could bring everything crashing down around us. His fiery cyber eye glared around at his followers as he continued, and anyone responsible for the slightest hitch in my plan will pay with his life. Good work, EMTD. Jaina shivered as she grinned over to Loey. Well, we know where he is now. Loey rumbled thoughtfully. No, Master Lobaka, EMTD said in a tiny voice. I'm afraid Master Neenum did not grant me authorization to access any of the primary security systems. The translator droid gave a mechanical sigh. Of 20 possible clearance levels, I'm afraid I've only been granted 2. These levels are designated for infrastructure operations. And what does infrastructure operations include? Jaina prompted. The little droid made an embarrassed sound as if he was trying to clear his throat. Janitorial functions, it would seem. Loey's lips peeled back from his Wookiee fangs in a feral grin. Jaina's eyebrows raised, and she looked at her friend. Her imagination sparked with quite a few interesting ideas. I think we can work with that, don't you? Loey gave a gleeful bark and began issuing orders to EMTD at a rapid rate as he punched in the commands in his terminal. Ah, yes, I see, EMTD. Passed the commands on through the appropriate authorization filters. Oh my, that would be most unpleasant. Within minutes, an alarm shrieked through the administrative levels. In the tiny image on screens, fire retardant systems sprang to life all around Zethros, spewing protective foam from hidden valves in the walls and ceilings. The bubbly mixture squirted on his visor into the moss-green hair. Shut that thing off! The tiny image of Zethros snapped. Half a dozen foam-covered lackeys sprang to do his bidding. Jaina chuckled. It took several minutes for the confusion to die down and the alarm to be turned off. But Jaina and Loey were ready. Under Jaina's direction, EMTD methodically accessed each of the main refresher units and reversed the sewage containment systems. Jaina and Loey did not have to wait long for the results. In less than 2 minutes, the second administrator came in, covered with disgusting glop, running into the office where Zethros and his people were still cleaning the fire-retardant mess. His eyes looked slightly wild, as if something had just happened to him that lay outside the whole scope of imagination. Sir, we have a problem, he announced. Around him, other henchmen' noses began wrinkling in distaste. Kim lowered his voice, leaned towards Zethros, and began whispering, his arm gesticulating to emphasize his point. Zethros grabbed the 5 men close to him, rattled off a string of orders, and propelled them bodily from the room, along with Administrator Kim. Jaina and Loey were shook with laughter. At the moment, Jaina hardly noticed the chill. By the time Kim and the 2 of Zethros' mercenaries entered the maintenance turbolift, EMTD was ready again. The turbolift moved just a few meters below EMTD, frozen in place with an urgent clean and refurbished authorization code. Despite the gravity of the situation, tears of mirth trickled from the corner of Jaina's eyes. She and Loey exchanged a quick hug. I think we made a good start, Jaina said. Loey growled a sobering comment. You're right, of course, she agreed. We're going to stop this coup. We have to bring down and do everything in our power to bring Zethros down.